All right, hello guys. We should be live now. I'm waiting for it to actually pop up on my YouTube that like everything's good. But yeah, so let me explain something in chat real quick. So basically, two of my mods, one of them is Billy Bob and one of them is Glossy. Hold on, I'm losing a lot of frames. Give me a second. Am I good now? Stream was really struggling there for a second. But more or less, two of my mods are just at war with each other. It's just a funny inside like joke for stream and stuff. But yeah, that's more or less what it is, Hugo. But we are going to be reviewing episode 7. We're going to be doing Mondays from now on because you guys wanted more of the Monday like full analysis of the episode where we go every scene, we break down every scene, talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, what's going on, and all of that. This is way more going to be like my Rings of Power, except I'm not going to be yelling as much. Because again, House of the Dragon, very refreshing to watch. There are good elements, good cinematography, good things going on within the episodes that just aren't not present within Rings of Power. So, you know, I'm glad. The Queen has arrived. Hi, Glossy. How are you? I want to point out, Glossy, when I put out my post, right, for this stream going on Monday, Ashley, one of the other viewers, literally asked if you were going to be in the stream. So, yeah. Let me pull up chat real quick. I'm kind of reading it off my overlay on OBS, and it's never a good idea. Hugo, join us for the good of the realm. A good old young wolf campaigning for the queen. Hey man, sorry about the infighting in the House of Goblin. Hey, that's what it is. What it has to be. Sometimes you infight. Sometimes things happen. Hi Matthew, how are you? Also, I'm just saying. Wait, Billy Bob's not here yet. He ain't here yet. The usurper is not here, but we're going to be going through the entire episode and talking about it. Let me see what you guys say in chat before we get into it. You know, maybe wait a couple of minutes till it's actually 7 o'clock and then I'll start breaking it down. But let me know what you guys thought in chat. What did you guys think about the episode? Give me your ratings out of 10. I think for me, I'll talk about this a lot throughout the episode and through the actual video. But I personally think it was a good episode. Like I said in the thumbnail, the title, I thought it was good. I wasn't a fan of certain things they did in this episode. I was not a fan of the ending. Again, this is something that I think is very similar. Me and Matthew talked about this. I wasn't a fan of the ending. And that's kind of how I felt for the last, like, 4 episodes. Where they start really strong, it's very good, and the ending just leaves on a very awkward or weird ending. So for me, I think I would say a low 8. No, I would say like a mid 8. I don't think I was going to go high 7, but I think mid 8 for me is where I'd put this episode. There was so much good in this episode, and that's why I'm like, you know, in the thumbnail, I'm like, very close. It was very close. It's just the lighting was not great. I had to straight up, like I was watching it on my phone and then typing on my computer because I was taking notes and stuff. I had to like turn my lights completely off. I really had to like, you know, get in the movie, like all the lights off mindset so I could watch the episode. It was very dark at times, which was it was bad in that regard. I had some I just don't I'll be honest. I do not like the way they've gone with Damon's character. Like there's this moment where he's giving sorry. Let's go back. So we're going to talk about this a little bit more in depth, but basically at Lena's wedding, there's a speech. And basically this whole speech is kind of a farce because it's like talking about how the Velaryon blood needs to stay pure and all that stuff. And, you know, in reality, it's like they're doing the complete opposite when you think about it. And Damon just laughs. Like, I'm just like, come on. Damon's supposed to be like this. It's just, I don't know. Like, I just don't like the way they've gone with his character. But let me know what you guys think about it. Because him laughing at a funeral, I'm just like, dude. He didn't maybe, like, love this woman or anything. But he definitely had affection for her at the least. And, like, it just seems just not Damon. Like, it's not my Damon. Right? From Fire and Blood. The way I have perceived the character. And I dislike that they're really leaning into. He's just kind of a really shy. Like that's just so childish. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, besides that, lighting, besides Damon, I thought Damon and Rhaenyra, I thought the relationship was a little rushed, I won't lie. Because when you look at what's going on, look at literally how their relationship happens. They haven't seen each other for 10 years. There's a 10-year gap where they have not seen each other because Damon's been in Pentos. And all of a sudden, as soon as they're back, they're just already boning and they're getting married. Like, I don't know. Like, it's the problem with the show not having enough. I feel like this season needed more episodes. But because they condensed it to 2 out of 10 episodes, it makes sense because it's a very important plot point. I just feel like they could have done more. All right, let me read chat a little bit, and then we're going to start getting into the actual scenes. You guys are trying to get Hugo in on it. You give him Lord of Harrenhal. That's cursed in multiple ways. I literally just did a video about Harrenhal. That's just a poisoned gift. Please don't Jakar each other in the chat. Oh boy. Loved it. 8 out of 10, and another solid 8 of 10. I would agree with you guys on that. -1 point for the non-existent lighting. I agree. Highgarden is a big ass. Your Grace must decide. The dialogue in Game of Thrones until season 4 was noticeably better than in House of the Dragon. I missed the epic badass quotes and moments. I think the dialogue's been fine. I think it's really hard to live up to the dialogue of the earlier seasons because they are straight from George. It's a Song of Ice and Fire. Like, those lines are already there. They're so badass. That's why the series has become as big as it was. So I don't think that you could really ever top a lot of those dialogue moments. But I think the dialogue in the series has been pretty good still. Hugo has been granted Highgarden. Wow, okay. Daemon is such a deadbeat dad. His ass does not care about his daughters. It's so weird to watch. I kind of agree. I'm happy about Laenor surviving, but then I was sad because he obviously didn't live long, given that Adam was able to... Yeah, so that's another question I have with how they're going to handle it. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, he's getting a happy ending, and I'm like, I don't know if we're done with Laenor. Because do they want to answer the question of, can dragons... Or, let's put it this way. Will Seasmoke just basically think Laenor's dead, or because he was abandoned, I guess, by Laenor... Or will Seasmoke go find Laenor? There's so many questions that I don't know if he actually... I don't know if he's going to survive. But at the same time, I don't know why he wouldn't survive if they did this. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Robb Stark, the young wolf, swears the power of the North Queen Glossy. Glossy, I don't know if you want Robb Stark on your side. He makes some bad... He ends up having a rough fate, so I don't know if that's a good power move for you, Glossy. I actually think they loved each other and that Daemon just processes his emotions in a weird way. Are you talking about him and Laena? Because I kind of agree to that statement, but then Daemon says he didn't really. But... I don't know. Yeah, that part was weird. What was he laughing at? All he said is something about the Valyrian bloodline being thick and how they wish to continue the bloodline. Something. So the reason it's funny is because Daemon is kind of reacting to it as us, the audience, is. Like, Vaemond is kind of talking about how the Velaryons need to keep their blood pure and all of these things. And when you look at the scenario that's going on, Laena is dead. Laenor is gay, and his children aren't his children. So if you look at the Velaryon bloodline, the only Velaryons that are actually Velaryons at this point are Daemon's kids, and then him, and then I guess Corlys and whatever. So in reality... him saying, we need to keep the bloodline pure, and we need to keep expanding our blood, I guess, or family, they're actually getting much smaller, so it is kind of funny when you think about it like that. Hand of the Queen to Young Wolf. Oh, God. I'm just saying, I feel like this is like the Greens right now. They're making a lot of political moves, and, like, The other side's not even here. Damon just feels brutally honest me, evil, but in more of a mature. Okay, I could see it. I could see that. I like your quote, Glossy. I like your quote. I thought that was a very good scene. Man, this episode was alright, I guess. I don't care at all that much about Fire and Blood material. I guess by this point they've cut Daron. So this is what I think is interesting, Jesse. So in the intro, you see that there are 4 bloodlines coming from Alicent. So maybe Daron is just in Old Town, but I don't understand why he wouldn't be involved in the story. So again, another big question. I don't know. George must be proud of his choices for writers and showruns. Probably, because he's heavily involved in it as well. So he's almost like basically a showrunner, basically. Yeah, I agree, Glossy. I don't know. Notification bell hates you. Well, YouTube is an interesting land where sometimes it recommends things, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it starts recommending my videos from months ago that are very outdated, and then all of a sudden they get a lot of views, and I'm like, why? But then videos I really like that they just don't get recommended to people, and I'm just like, why? But yeah, no. I'm a true dragon man here. Blacks till the end. Yeah, I am with you, but people like to think I'm part of the greens, so. Glossy, why are you reading the leaks? What are you doing? And hi, I think I already said hi to you, Ashley, but I'm gonna say it again. Is Helena autistic or a green star? I think she's got some dreams going on. I think I don't know. She's just weird. I don't know. I like the Eamonn actor's reaction inside the episode to the kids. I'll be honest, guys. I don't watch the inside of the episode. Ever since we had the whole idea with Damon couldn't get it up, I was just like, no, you know what? I'm going to interpret it how I interpret it, not how, yeah. All right, so let's get into the actual episode because we have a lot to cover. This is more of a Rings of Power type stream where I go through every single scene. I will say with House of the Dragon, because there isn't as many scenes, it's more like one continued scene with multiple characters interacting within a scene. So this one I have like parts of more or less. I don't have as many like individual scenes. Whereas like Rings of Power, you know, shifts character focus a lot, and I had like 20 different scenes. This one I only had like 10, and there's just a lot of things that go on at the same time, really. Let me move chat over there. Okay. Does anyone also think Bayman Blackfire was Raphael? No. I'm sorry. No, I do not. Dragon dreams like her father. Could be very likely. It's better if you don't repeat that. I'm till I die, but you know what? I was gonna read your message, Water, and then you decided to, you know. All right, well, let's get into it. So we start out the scene with Elena'S funeral, and it's a good kind of introduction to kind of show where all of our characters are, where we are, and also we have the next thing I wrote about Elena'S funeral, by the way, is we see that Otto has returned his hand. He does a nice little thing where, you know, it shows, oh, he's got his hand badge back. He's feeling real good about himself, you know, which is interesting because we never get a scene of like Alicent and Otto Hightower talking about how Alicent actually got him his job back. I do think that would be kind of interesting. It just hasn't happened, but that would be a really cool conversation. Just be like, yeah, so Otto, you know how like you didn't have a job and you got fired? Well, you know that really weird dude? Yeah, I was talking to him and then he just straight up murdered the last hand of the king and stuff. So now you're back, and yeah. This whole thing where Otto's like, I've never seen this side of you. Well, it's like, I don't know. Alicent did some interesting. She had an interesting talk last episode. But yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm a black till I die, but I can't help. I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I kind of like all the kids. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of like all the kids. I think even Eamon, where I don't like Eamon, but he kind of, I feel for him at times, I fucked it up. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. She can do nothing about it now. I have the biggest army. You go. Oh, you know what? That is true. She doesn't have a dragon. This is the Goblin Wars. She just has goblins. That's interesting. That's interesting. Anyone went off this episode too? Yeah, he had to. They had to develop a lot of his character, but yeah, they did a really good job. Can I have High Garden? I pledge my sword and my 2 cats to Queen Glossy. 2 cats. 2 cats. Wow. I have 1 cat. I used to have 2 cats, but that's a hefty pledge there, Amir. I don't like the new actor for Aegon. They don't really look alike. I actually haven't even looked at the new trailer yet. So maybe we'll do a live reaction. Maybe I'll bring the episode up and I'll kind of, we have you, Grease Goblin. That is true. I am, as of right now, because Glossy is in the chat, I am for Team Glossy in this situation. Otto is the Norman Osborn of the song about, yes, yes. But so we see that, we have a nice little cool scene where it kind of establishes he's back and all of that. We kind of figured after the end of the last episode. But so I also noted everyone's here, and this is something that is good and bad, because I feel like so far House of the Dragon has very much stayed in one place for the most part, which is like, it's good and bad. But we're probably going to see less of that as the episodes go on, so we might as well enjoy it for now. And then here we go. So there was some great dialogue, and this is, Vaemond, he's giving this speech, and it's really indicative because there's a lot of shots where it's like he'll be saying something, and it'll be like the true blood of the Velaryons or something like that, and it'll pan to Rhaenyra. And Rhaenyra's facial expression, you can kind of see is just like, oh, yeah, about that. And I really love the way the speech is, it's not only kind of a good indication of Vaemond's character, but it's also a good indication of what's really going on in this episode, and doing a good job of building up and bringing the tension to this episode. So I thought that was a great way to start the episode with this speech, and I really liked what it's meaning, and its double meaning of what's really going on. So then we have Daemon randomly laughs. I talked about this at the beginning of the stream. I wasn't a fan of this. This was one of the very few scenes in the episode where I was just like, what? Like, Daemon can have like a look on his face where he's just like smiling or something like that, but he can't just outright laugh. Like, I wasn't a fan of that. It was one of the few moments in this episode where I was just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? But yeah, so this was good. This was a good setup. Good way to open up the episode and establish some of our characters. Yeah, so that's basically all I had to talk about on that first scene. I wish we would have gotten a bit more of Otto's return as being Hand. Like, how did that conversation go? Like, how did Viserys, after firing Otto and all of that, how did he approach that? Like, what was the conversation there? So, again, it's just another problem with the time skips and not having enough time in season 1. Where I wish we had more time to see some of these interactions that we're not getting to see on screen, but I understand why they did it. It's just something that I feel like was a missed opportunity. And I think as we go further into the show, and as we see, there's a lot of death already in this show, if we give more time for these characters to develop, things that happen in the future become way more impactful. There's a lot more emotion to those. That's things I think they've missed on certain characters like Laena, for instance. A lot of people didn't really feel anything for her. If we had developed them more, and it wasn't something where it's like we introduced them in an episode and then they're dead. Like, so I think that's one thing that because of the pace, isn't great. Let me go back up here. Does getting a dragon change your personality like it does to a skin shirt? Oh, yeah. Okay, so it depends what age you get it, but like look at Aemond, right? So Aemond gets bullied by his brother, and I guess the strong kids as well. And he gets a dragon. He gets Vhagar, literally the best dragon, like the biggest, oldest dragon at this point. And And he kind of comes off as a cocky, you know, kind of an asshole, right? When, you know, he has his interaction with Daemon's daughters and then also Rhaenyra's sons. So, yes. I mean, think about how much power you're giving a very young kid. So depending on when you get a dragon, then yeah, I would definitely say it does change your personality. Do you have the prince that was promised, Sir Pounce? Ooh, Sir Pounce. He is the prince that was promised. The only queen I bend my knee to is Rhaenys, and we finally got a good Ashley. We haven't gotten there yet, but I had one of my favorite scenes in the entire series in this episode. We'll talk about it a little bit later. It's probably about midway through, I think, but the scene with Corlys and Rhaenys was a fantastic scene. Like, it was genuinely, I don't know if I'm going to do like a top 5 scenes at the end of the season 1, but so far it's definitely one of my favorite scenes. And it wasn't an elaborate scene. It wasn't a big scene. It was just a scene where 2 characters are talking, and you really see a lot more of their characters and even their relationship, and I really liked that. Aegon just kind of wants to live his life and get dragged. And yeah, again, exactly. I kind of like Aegon to a degree. And there's something I'm going to talk about with Aegon later on when he has this conversation with his mother later on, like at the very end of the episode, that I was just like, bro, I feel for you, Aegon. I feel for you. Though it didn't feel like enough. Well, here's the thing, Ashley. We just never get enough Rhaenys, I feel like. But when we do, it's fantastic. I feel like the nose is the problem. Younger Aegon actor has a big nose. Fair enough. Fair enough. Is it just me, or did everyone age 30 years in the time skip that was supposed to be 10 years? To a degree, it kind of felt like that, Hugo. I won't lie. It's definitely setting up the next episode, which features the Velaryon drama. Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Wink, wink to episode 8. You can't switch lords, so arbitrarily people won't like that. Agreed. Agreed. Love how Corlys and Viserys refuse to acknowledge that their grandchildren are clearly bastards. Yeah, I think it's one of, well, there's 2 different reasons for why. Like, Viserys wants to believe it, right? Because he doesn't want the problems of that succession, and he wants to just stick to the story because he thinks it's going to fix the problem. Corlys, on the other hand, is willing to believe it because, well, he's not, okay. He kind of acknowledges that they are bastards, right, Water? He says, like, it doesn't matter what their blood is. They will remember their names, and the Velaryon name is attached to them whether they're a bastard or not. So Corlys is going to be part of that side because it's the place where his family has the most amount to gain, right? So he's always going to acknowledge them as his grandchild, at least publicly, because of that. People do laugh sometimes when grieving. It's a weird reaction to loss, but see, I get that, Young Wolf, but that's not the way it kind of comes off as. If you hear the dialogue of what's going on, it's not because he's like, you know, just having a random laugh. He's literally laughing at something that like would be funny to someone that knows kind of what's going on, and he picks up on that. I just think it's an odd way. Daemon laughing was a good way to break the tension, I thought. I guess, but like, it just, I don't know, it just comes off as really, really hard. Like, that's the worst thing you could do at your wife's funeral, I think. I agree with you, Ashley. I have 4 hounds at my disposal. That is a lot of hounds. Inconsistent writing of Daemon. I agree, because then we see towards the end of the episode where Daemon's kind of sitting in the back and he's watching everything unfold. He just at times feels like a different character almost. Yeah, I agree, Gossie. Also, I'm going to get there when we get there, but we really need to see like that much of the sex scene. Like, we get it. Like, you could have just ended it where they're kissing or whatever, and then, you know, his hand goes somewhere, and then bam, you're done. We don't got to keep going. Like, they did this in Game of Thrones too. There's too much. Like, we don't need to see this. Like, why do we need to see like this sex scene between Daemon and Rhaenyra that goes on for too long, but we can't see, like, for instance, Alicent and Viserys's like wedding? I don't know. Stuff like that does bother me. I think Dragon makes you overall stronger, like with Aenys. Okay, that's possible. Shut up, young wolf. I'm not even gonna respond. I'm not. No, I didn't. I just, it's funny. I didn't even read that comment before I said what I said, but I did not want to see that. Yeah, water. It was a little fucked. It was a little fucked. Where he said that it matters about name and not blood. Yes, Paxton. I liked the whole funeral scene. Damon laughing was a bit weird, but the one thing that was really bad about it, I could hardly hear Vaemon talking. That's fair. They should have, Vaemon's voice probably should have been a little louder, Lena and Rhaenys feel like the only married couple who actually like each other. I know what you meant to say, but yeah. And even then, it's a little strenuous, right? Rhaenys is kind of asking him to do things, and he's not willing to do them. Viserys looked like he was 35, now he looks like Walder Frey in his 90s. Yeah. Alicent looked like she was 20, now she's... Okay, hold on. I would say she looks like a good, solid, like... I don't know how old the actress is in real life. Okay. I would say she's probably like 30s. Which kind of adds up. She's supposed to be like, I think, her late 20s, I think, at this point. We're going off the time jump. Agreed, the lighting was so ass, though, so I barely saw anything. Yeah, that's fair. Am I the only one who really likes Vaemon Velaryon? I've been a fan since his debut in the Stepstones. I like the Velaryons in general. I like everyone in the house. I think they are being portrayed very well. And I think they have a lot of good actors and actresses within that house. But I will say, I think they're setting him up as an interesting character. That's all I'll say. I agree. You could have gotten the scene with 15-year-old Alicent giving birth. God, you're not gonna let me down. No, I wouldn't say I like him, but I definitely understand where he's coming from. Yeah, agreed. Oh God, Lady Gonzo. Oh boy. She is 30. Okay, so yeah, that adds up to what she's supposed to be in this. So yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's get into scene 2. So scene 2 is all of these characters, they're at the funeral. They go kind of up into Driftmark or whatever, and they're on this little, I don't know what you want to call it. They're on this little, like, patio area. It's a nice little area. I don't know what you want to call it. But they're, oh wait, hold on. Yeah, we're on that scene. Okay. So we have this transition, and the dragons are at Driftmark. It's a nice little scene. We see them over the top and all that. But we have a really awesome scene between Rhaenyra and her son. And this is Jace. And I thought this was really good because what is being set up here is that Jace really can't grieve. Like, everyone else here is allowed to, grieve and, feel all these things, but Jace really isn't allowed to do that because he knows that Harwin was his father, but he's not supposed to say that Harwin was his father, and he can't feel these normal feelings of a kid, so he's having to support others while no one's really supporting him outside of, like, Rhaenyra. So I thought that was a really good idea, and it's something that set up not the show, but the episode as a whole. I also really like, this is something I really liked that I feel like they haven't done a very good job with at times, is that I really like that they mention and they actually talk about how Harwin Strong dies and the actual impact of that, right? How that's affecting characters, where I feel like at certain times, especially in other shows, when people die, we don't talk about it. Like, when we have the Red Wedding, it's something that the episode after, everybody talks about it. Everyone's mentioning it because it's such a big event. Harwin Strong and the Strong family really as a whole dying was really, good or whatever. So, but I will say, I don't think there was enough attention brought to it. I will say, because you really have, like, certain characters talking about it, but then other characters are not, and it feels like there's nothing there. So, I don't know. I think that's an interesting part. Oh my God, I felt so bad for Jace. Yes. It was sweet how Baela held his hand, though. It was really nice. Hi, Casper. How are you? I feel something is missing in the show. We never really see Rhaenyra and Alicent drifting apart. It basically happened off-screen following one, in my opinion, catalyst. So this is, again, a problem, Hugo, I agree with you on, is there's this idea that Alicent and Rhaenyra kind of split. They're not really on good terms. And then, so for that episode, they're not on good terms. Then they come back off screen, and Alicent's kind of ready to be good again with Rhaenyra, I guess. And then one thing happens, and then they're not friends again. It is really interesting the way it happens, because I think the way they've done it, they've made Alicent look a lot worse because of just how things happen. Alicent comes off as being very much more like a hypocrite, and especially her actions afterwards paint her in a really bad light. So I think if they were going for more of the morally gray route with both characters, I think they've really kind of not done a good job with the green side of it, because you can tell with everything going on, the green side of things are actively pushing for war. It's not like Rhaenyra's side is the one that's like, oh yeah, we need to start a war. Like, they're the ones trying to avoid the war. They're the ones trying to make peace with the Greens, like we saw in last episode with Rhaenyra offering to marry her son to Alicent's daughter. It really kind of takes away from that element they were going for. Like, I don't know, unless you like the Hightowers or you like some of the characters, I don't understand from a a psychological or philosophical like way of looking at the term, or I get not the terms. I'm struggling on words to say here, but on what each side is like doing and what side has what motivations, it's very hard for me to say the Greens are in the right at all. So, I know Corlys is really ambitious, but all the stuff that has happened to the Valyrians by Rhaenyra's side, I still don't know why they take up Rhaenyra's side. Rhaenys, she was giving the death stare. So the reason he would stay, let's think about this from a logical point of view. Corlys is someone that, he's not just, really ambitious and all that, but he is someone that is really worried about legacy. One of the big themes that George R. R. Martin writes is death. And what do you leave behind? It's something that I think George himself is someone he is very much looks into that, even though he doesn't finish his book, so his legacy is tarnished, which, irony. But that is kind of Corlys' thing, and that's why when he talks to Rhaenys, he's like, it doesn't really matter about the blood. It remembers about names. Like, Corlys will become probably the greatest naval captain of all time. His name will live on forever. And how his family will pass on depends on the heirs at this point and all these things. That's why Corlys talks to Luke and is like, trying to get him to, become the leader of the Velaryons and, eventually rule. So the whole idea is, what does Corlys gain from each side? One side with the Blacks, regardless of what happens to his family, right? He is possibly going to have his name on the Iron Throne. Right? Now, yes, they will take the Targaryen name, but at the same time, his brothers will still be, Velaryons and stuff like that, and it'll be associated with their family. What do the Greens offer him? So the Greens, you aren't really going to have any way of marrying into the family. Like, the only way you could think about maybe doing it was if maybe Vaemond married Helena or something like that, but then Helena's already marrying Aegon. Also, by the way, Alicent is appalled by the incest between Rhaenyra and Daemon, but then her kids, she's completely fine about it. I thought that was kind of funny. It shows kind of the double standard of Alicent and all that stuff, but yeah, we're not going to talk about that yet. But when you look at it, what do the Greens offer him? They don't offer him what he really wants. So it makes a lot more sense when you put it in that perspective of, yes, these bad things happen, and all of these things go wrong for the Velaryons, but it makes more sense from his point of view and how he looks at the world to go with the Blacks. All right. I'm going to try to get through scene 2 a little bit, and then I'll get back into chat. I want to, make sure we start getting more into the episode. But I wanted to say, this is one big thing I wanted to point out in this episode that I think most shows and most media fail at. This scene kind of starts after I think it's after like Rhaenyra and her son have her talk and all that stuff. There's not really any words being spoken. It's a lot of the camera is going to this character, seeing their facial reaction, what they're doing, going to this character, and there's almost no words being spoken. And there's no music going on. There's almost no sound. It's almost eerily silent. And what I really liked about this is it builds tension and it builds the unease without doing really anything. Whereas you see with like Rings of Power, right? I've been reviewing that every single week. They try so much forced tension, so much forced bad is coming, right? Where they're actively saying, "Oh, the evil's coming," or "There's shadow," or something like that. That doesn't work. This is exactly how you build tension and unease. Doing shots like this, where people look concerned or they look, like something's going on, and no one's really speaking. There's no music. There's no like music playing. It's a great way of showing how this scene is supposed to be, and how the episode is supposed to set the tone as a whole. Jesse, I just saw your last comment. That's funny. The episode is so dark. I mean, visually, I could hardly see what was going on. Yep. Okay. I will get back in the comments in a second. I just saw that one out of the corner of my eye. So this is what I just got done talking about, but I love that Aegon is just like, bro, I don't want to marry Helena. Like, dude, there's something wrong going on with this girl. I'm trying to, bang all of these like women that are handing out drinks and stuff. Like, I'm way more interested in that than my sister who plays with bugs and stuff. Like, I just thought it was so funny. And then you've got Eamon on the second. He's like, you should just do your duty, man. Like, just do what you're supposed to do. If I was in your situation, I would marry her, And it's just such an interesting dynamic between Aegon, who just doesn't care. My man is like your typical, like, fuck boy. He's just like, dude, I just want to bang some women, drink my alcohol, have no responsibilities, and just have a good life. And then here's Eamon, and he's just like, what are you doing, Aegon? Like, have you not been listening to mom? This is why she likes me more than you, okay? This is why at the end of the episode, she's willing to try and get someone's eye out from the royal family because someone took my eye. I just thought it was funny. I really like the dynamic between like those three children and how that kind of worked out. But yeah, that was really good. I like that. I also pointed out that Eamon again comes off as very sympathetic and the smarter of the two, boys, because we haven't seen the other boy yet. But yeah, so I put that down. Eamon starts this episode very strong. We even have this little scene with Eamon and Jace where Eamon kind of walks up to Jace and is kind of like about to say something, like he wants to give him some comfort, but maybe something in the back of his mind, like, we're supposed to be enemies. This is not someone I'm supposed to like. Kind of pops into his head, and he's like, yeah, you know what? No, not gonna do that. So I thought that was a good scene. It shows kind of the internal conflict within Eamon in that, and it kind of gives him a really sympathetic feel to it. And I really like that idea with him and kind of making him a little bit more of a character, because in like Fire and Blood, he just kind of comes off as really cruel and stuff like that, and he really isn't given a lot of character development. I feel like he's still a very cool character, but he definitely doesn't have as much of a complex character as he does in the show, which is something I really like. Moving on, we have Clubfoot being named the new Lord of Harrenhal, while he's also creepily looking at Alicent, and Alicent's just kind of just like Kristen Cole. Kristen Cole like brings it up, is like, dude, this guy's been like eyeing you up for like the whole time, okay? And Alicent's just like, he just kind of does that, like, it's his thing. He just, he's a weird guy. He's just a weird guy. That's basically her explanation. I'm just like, okay, you know what? Makes sense. This dude's willing to murder people for you. The least you can do is, just say he's just doing his thing, I guess. Also, I like that there's kind of a bond between Daemon's kids and Jace. Like, it's kind of from the get-go, kind of just like, okay, we are, we're allies here. And they kind of feel like, they can actually like support each other. And, I liked it. As Ashley said earlier, like, it was really cute seeing, Bella hold Jace's hand. It was. I liked it. So this kind of leads us into our scene with Corlys and Luke. And Corlys is kind of giving Luke the Tywin and Tommen talk at Joffrey's wedding, where he's just like, okay, this is what you're going to have to do when you get older and all this stuff. And I like that we constantly are seeing the kids are just like, this is not what I want. Like, this is just not No, like this, no. If I become Lord of Driftmark or whatever, that means that everybody's dead. And that is like a very kid response to it. And that's something where it's like they are very aware of how to write dialogue. Because like Luke is just like, dude, I'm like, I don't know how old Luke's supposed to be at this point, but he's young, okay? This is probably his first real experience with actual death. This ain't the time. This ain't the time, Corliss. Ain't the time. So yeah, I really like that they keep showing how kids are being forced into things. So love that. Well, we don't wait. We don't love that kids are being forced into things, but we love that they're showing that's what happens and why this pushes into the conflict it is. Needed to say that before young Wolf starts slandering me in every stream. Also, again, like I talked about, I like how it shows the struggles of children accepting death and their first kind of experiences with it. Something that I think a lot of TV shows or movies overlook. Like children just kind of act fine. It's like, no, this is something very new to children, and that people die and we don't all live forever. It's a very interesting dynamic, and I like they showed that in the episode. I love the idea of how Jace can't. Yeah, so this is another thing. Jace can't show his sadness, which is something I really liked, and it makes you really feel for him because you can see as like Damon's kids, right? They're able to kind of express how they're feeling and stuff like that, able to cry and stuff like that. And Jace really is not allowed to do that. So that was a really good it was a really good contrast between the two, and I think it really it shows that Jace is holding up a lot of anger and grief, and he has no way to express that, which will then kind of play into later on in the episode when he and Eamon do get into a fight. I thought that was really good. I thought Laenor's grief was good. It was like good to see that Laenor like actually like is really just destroyed by his sister's death. I thought it was good. Like all of these things I'm just saying is just like they are good to show because that's how normal human beings would act like. And I've gotten so used to now, like watching shows or other things, not treat characters how a normal person would respond. That is exactly how Laenor would respond, and all that. And then we have Viserys and Daemon talking, and Viserys is trying to basically go, Daemon, I want you to come back to King's Landing. We've had our differences, but we need to reconcile and all these things. And I just don't think Viserys understands who Daemon is. Like Daemon does not want Viserys's like support, I guess. Daemon, especially in his youth, wanted more to be kind of acknowledged by Viserys and stuff like that, and to kind of gain his title back as kind of heir. But after that, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Viserys and Daemon have that same kind of relationship anymore. And then this kind of, I'm going to say, quote unquote, scene ends because after this, it goes to nighttime, your guys' favorite part of the episode. And Viserys calls Alicent his wife, Emma. And I thought this was good because it not only shows that Viserys' physical condition is worsening, just obviously the way he looks, but also his mind is kind of slowing down a bit. And his mental condition is also getting a bit worse, or his internal condition. Okay, so let me read chat. I have a lot of chat to go through, so give me a second, guys, and we'll start getting through chat here. I always pictured Rhaenys as more stern and badass than what we've seen on the show. I agree, but I think that's not because of the portrayal of the way she's going with the show. I feel like we haven't gotten enough of her. I also thought it was interesting that Baela woke Jace when Vhagar was stolen rather than running to her grandparents. They seem to have yeah, I think they have a very good relationship, and I think it's just it makes more sense that Baela especially would go to someone like Jace than someone like Corlys and Rhaenys, because you also have to think they haven't. I don't think Baela's ever actually has Baela actually ever met Corlys and Rhaenys. Because we pick up with Daemon is in Pentos with Laena and the children, so they probably don't have a good relationship, their grandparents with their grandparents. So I think it does make sense that she would go to Jace instead of even going to someone like Daemon, which she wouldn't have been able to find Daemon anyway because he was doing some other things. He was writing some other things at the time. So yeah. Alicent abruptly became a power-hungry and vicious player. It's weird because she was the opposite of that before the time skip, and we never saw. Agreed, Hugo. And this is the big problem with the series. I think this series probably should have been 15 episodes or maybe 12 episodes. There's just so much things that if you look at things that were cut, things that they haven't shown, you can tell there was obviously room for like 3, 4, 5 more episodes. And this is the problem, is because I don't blame them. I don't blame them because I understand if you're looking at Game of Thrones, massive failure at the end. It was a massive failure. You were trying to revive and bring back that fan base and also bring casual people to watch the show. I think they were afraid to have all of these episodes where it was more of just conversation, chess pieces moving, until you finally get to where we're kind of getting to now, like the episode 8 kind of stuff, where everything's building to this point. This is where you're going to start having your big episodes, right? I think they were scared to have that, wait even longer. And I think that means they had to cut things. They had to rush things. And that's just the way things ended up playing out, which I think is unfortunate, Hugo, because let's say another show had been, or let's say Game of Thrones had ended well. I don't think this would have happened. I think they would have been a lot safer where they felt like they could retain their audience long enough to actually have those build-up episodes. If the show was logical, Viserys would have sent Alicent to the Silent Sisters after what she did. There are so many things I'm going to talk about when we get later on in the episode that also kind of bothered me. Just things like Kristen Cole talking back to Viserys. I don't think Kristen Cole would ever do that when you look at like the book counterpart of the character. Like, they've made Kristen Cole out to be like a very big hothead or someone that just is just kind of stupid. Like, that is the easiest way to get executed or discharged from the Kingsguard. Yeah, start talking back to Viserys, the king. Like, what? I don't know. So, I think Alicent is kind of in a safe position because Viserys doesn't want to break up the family. It'd be removing his kid's mother. There's just. If Viserys was a better ruler and understand what was going on, then yeah. I also agree with you on that, Hugo. I felt like the younger Alicent was much more sympathetic, was much more... We understood more of her motives. But then they went to the older Alicent, and I'm like, okay, this Alicent is more like Cersei, where she's just kind of ambitious. She's not afraid to do dirty, like, actions, basically, which means, like, not, like, sexual. I meant, like, killing people, basically. But, yeah. I think made Alicent's reasons for her transition ambiguous when it probably came from having no one to rely on and having zero allies at courts. That's fair. That's fair. But I think they could have done more to show us that, I feel like. I think Corlys also stays loyal to the Blacks out of love for Jace. Yeah, that's fair. I think that also is a decent point. I think Otto's parting warning that Rhaenyra would have to kill her kids in order to protect her claim was the biggest wake-up call for Alicent and is what sent her over the edge. So it is that because it puts it into Alicent's head, but I think it's when Alicent kind of realizes that Rhaenyra would lie to her, it's like, it shakes, I guess, her trust in believing that Rhaenyra would keep up her bargain of not basically killing her kids, which I think is a big leap to take if you're Alicent. Like, you're going from, oh, she lied to me and slept with some dude. Like, okay, whatever. It's not, that big of a thing. To, she's going to murder your children. Like, it's a big, big jump. And I think it's more of Alicent pretends to be following all these rules, being very lawful. But then when you look at her, she's very much a hypocrite. She does the exact same things like that Rhaenyra does. She is complicit in the Strong's dying. She actively lies and manipulates Viserys. So, Alicent's a very interesting character because I think Alicent is someone that is kind of like one of those people that you meet in high school. It's very stuck up, that kind of thinks they're perfect and stuff like that. Alicent kind of gives me a lot of those kind of vibes, and I think Rhaenyra is just more self-aware of who she is. And that gets her in trouble. I think that's where you kind of draw the comparison, or not the comparison, the difference between the two. Corlys can't stand Otto, same as Daemon. Agreed. That is another point that binds them together. Hugo, I kind of... Okay, so this is my thing. I agree with you. I think if Aegon was chill, which basically he is right now. Aegon is kind of chill. He's not actively trying to take her throne or anything like that. And he was just, having his way with some whores, and he was just drinking, whatever. Rhaenyra wouldn't have a problem with him, right? And he's already setting himself up to be very, not a good ruler. So Rhaenyra would have really no reason to kill Aegon. But it's that 1% in the back of Rhaenyra's mind that, hey, he is a male, and people will constantly be whispering that, oh, Rhaenyra's kids are Strongs, and that Aegon's the real heir. It's that constant, not... How do I say this? It's not 100% backing Rhaenyra. It's kind of how I would look at it. It's the same way as if, Rhaenys became queen. People would still always be thinking, oh, Viserys should have been king, right? So it's that kind of idea, I think. Surprised Corlys didn't suggest marrying Luke and Baela. I kind of am as well, because yes, it's more of a Targaryen thing to wed family members together, but that does make a lot of sense, and especially when Corlys knows that Luke is not an actual Velaryon, it would actually bring together his bloodline and the Velaryon bloodline. I think that would have made a lot of sense. Right, Amir? Otto tried to beggar Driftmark by allowing this out. Yeah, agreed. And Otto, his facade of being a morally gray character is gone now. He basically is instigating the war. He is, he wants the war to happen. So it's interesting on that. Yeah, and yeah, so Rhaenys wants Baela to inherit Driftmark, which makes sense because Baela is an actual Velaryon. It makes sense from that point of view, and all that. Another good example is in Lord of the Rings when the characters look at Mordor. In Minas Tirith, it's constantly there right across the plains. Agreed. It's something where you don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything, but when you look out of Minas Tirith and you see the eye, or you see the mountains and the darkness and in the way over, it builds that tension. Another thing that's really good at building tension and building unease is when Minas Morgul, the little beam shoots up in the sky. It's something that connects all of our characters in the area, but also builds that fear and terror of Mordor. And I think those are the things that Rings of Power does very poorly, and this show does pretty well. Aemond is a mommy's boy. Agreed, he is. I guess the plot demanded Alicent to take Otto's words to heart, but Rhaenyra killing Aegon in a scenario in which they remain friends is just like Jon killing Bran to remove the opposition. I agree with that. If Rhaenyra and Aegon were in good terms, your point is exactly right, Hugo. It is exactly right. Aemon sympathetic? That's funny. Yay, I mean, at times, he's not one of my favorite characters, that's all I'll say. Alicent definitely told the kids about how Aegon will be king. Aemon mentions that Helena will be... Yeah, she definitely... Well, she's actively pushing this agenda onto them, so yeah. Yeah, Lady Gonzo, yeah, that's correct. Where it's the idea that, Alicent, it's the same thing with how Rhaenyra in the back of her mind would always have this idea that, Aegon is, a male heir. He would be next on the throne to a lot of people. Alicent in the back of her mind would be thinking that, okay, there is a 1% chance or whatever, even on good terms, that Rhaenyra just kind of loses her shit and kills him. So you mix that in with, okay, she can't trust Rhaenyra anymore, really. But the problem is, and this is my problem with Alicent's logic, is she makes a jump from, okay, she lied to me about who she slept with and being a virgin or whatever, to, oh yeah, she will definitely kill my kids at some point. What? What part of Rhaenyra gives you that indication? I don't... She's probably been one of the most mild Targaryens I've ever seen. I don't know. Am I the only one who feels like Kristen might have a thing for Alicent? Yes, he acts like a little simp the whole time. I'm sorry. Okay, there are very few characters in the show that I actually hate. I hate Kristen. Like, he's just such a little bitch, like, all the time. Like, he's just like, oh, he's so sulky all the time. He's just like, oh, I knew I didn't like me. I'm gonna have a tantrum for the next 10 to 15 years. Like, God, grow up, Kristen. I don't like Kristen Cole, dude. I want that motherfucker to die, okay? Like, somebody needs to just... Viserys needs to cut that man in half, okay? I don't like him on screen, dude. He's Alicent's little plaything, and it bothers me. And he also shouldn't even be a Kingsguard anymore. For going off the show's logic, he murdered somebody at a marriage. Like, how is he teaching this? Don't get me started. Kristen Cole bothers me. He is a character that bothers me. The scene on the terrace should be called A Game of Stairs. Yes, Tywin would win, but yes. Hold on. Let's skip to the bottom. God, you guys have so many comments. I'm struggling to get through them all. Kristen definitely loves Alicent. Yes, yes. I don't swallow that. Younger siblings are not under constant fear of being killed by their elders. This kind of thing just doesn't happen outside of extreme circumstances. I think you are partially right on that idea, but I think it is just the way the show is logical. Logic is going about it, I think. I just don't think... I don't know. I think if Rhaenyra comes to the throne at that point, and she, you know, has got the greens to basically bend the knee or whatever, I don't think she would have seen them as a threat as much. Like, it would have been like a 1% thing in the back of her mind. He said, I don't want it. Fair. I still don't get why Corlys would want the strong bastards to inherit Driftmark. Probably because they're males. That's probably why. Just so he has like a male, basically, heir to Driftmark, because the males are the fighty ones. They're the ones that go do the Navy stuff. That's probably why. If we're going off of the rationale of the show and how it's usually done things, yes. I didn't notice he called her Emma. Yes, he calls her Emma as he's kind of leaving. He's like, I'm going to bed or whatever. I hated that Corlys wasn't sympathetic to Laenor basically attempting suicide, like he's about to walk into the ocean to join his sister and nobody gave her... Yeah, agreed. I just think that's kind of who Corlys is. He's someone that's like your typical like hard-ass dad where it's quite literally the worst dad to have for someone like Laenor, where he is gay. You know, he has some of these issues like that. And Corlys would not be the most supporting father. Like, I can just... Yeah, he just gives me that kind of vibe. Also, yes, that would make a scene and probably piss off Rhaenyra. So that's another good point. I will miss Viserys. I find him very cool when he was not senile. Hey, he will live on forever. That's all I'm going to say. We're changing the lore. He's going to live forever. He did. He was also kissing Aemma's ring in the last episode. Alicent is making him miserable. I agree. I think Alicent's constant like pandering and stuff like that, just not it. Also, something I don't understand why they changed from the book that I think would have made a lot of sense is there's nobody really talking to Viserys like, we need to change the air. We need to change, like, constantly on his case. There's nothing like that. Like, in Fire and Blood, the reason Otto ends up getting kicked out his hand is because he was doing that. And I think the way they got Otto Hightower out of King's Landing and all that still made sense, and I thought it was really good. But I feel like I wish they would have added a little bit of that in there, because it would have added to kind of how Viserys is kind of blind to the issues. But I don't know. That's a little nitpick, but yeah. Rhaenys was hugging them multiple times during the funeral, not just hugging, but like clutching them against her chest. The girls also saw it out Rhaenys after the fight with Aemond. That's a good point, Ashley. It's something I did not consider, which is interesting though, because you'd have to think they didn't spend much time together, but that is interesting. I agree. This season should have been longer to get through the setup at a better pace. I agree. What if they had started the show at the... I don't like that. Jesse, I don't like that. I get what you're going for, but I personally like that they set up. I think it adds more to the dance, because the beginning of the dance, things happen that you kind of need to have some preconception of the characters for things to actually matter or to feel important. I agree with Lady Gonzo on how you're saying, like, they have gotten the important plot points, but they've just left out a lot of stuff for us to kind of figure out or to just accept. Agreed, Ashley, on your sentiment on Lenore. Kind of weird how they did Jace and Baylor's relationship, because they made it seem like Damon stayed in Pentos the whole time. He was with Lena, at least most of the time. So I just, I kind of agree, Water. Like, it just, the way they set it up, it seems like they hadn't actually seen or gone back to Westeros in a while. Alicent is a victim of Otto's manipulations and scheming. Her entire life has been decided by him, which is why I do feel some sympathy for her. Yeah, Alicent is such a weird character, because I still have some sympathy for her, because I think as a younger woman, right, when she was, earlier episodes, I definitely get that. But at the same time, at this point, she's made so many decisions that have been on her own and have not been influenced by Otto's, and she's actively creating more issues and creating a war-like scenario, that I don't really feel that same sympathy for her anymore. Like, yes, she was manipulated and put into a role to do these things, but she's now gone about them in her own way without Otto even being there, and she has kind of turned into very much a villain for me. And I agree with you on that, Ashley, on your sentiment about her kid's safety. Wish Tyrion or Viserys would have pulled a Tyrion and told the Lord Commander that if Kristen makes one more step his grandchildren, or makes one step towards his grandchildren to kill. Yeah, I agreed. I agree. So the only reason here is because Rhaenys is interesting, because she was set up to be the queen, and that's his claim to, oh, we should be on the Iron Throne. When in reality, he just wants a Velaryon on the throne. The thing with Daemon's daughters being his heirs is that everybody already, not really everybody, but everyone kind of just has to go with it. They are Velaryons, and if you look at the history books, whatever, they'll just say they were Velaryons, right? Their names will have a Velaryon name after it. So in that way, it doesn't really matter, really. And that's also kind of true, Glossy, that if he makes Baela his heir, he's basically saying Luke's a bastard as well. Now, he could have used what Rhaenys said. Rhaenys is like, okay, just say in honor of Lena, right? That's what you'll do. But again, people would have kind of looked through it, I'm pretty sure. I agree, Hugo. I agree. I agree, Matthew. Well, you're agreeing to me, but yes, they should have added more to that. Humans and their logic. Yes, we make very bad decisions. Also, I say this all the time. I am a big Rhaenyra fan. She's one of my favorite Targaryens. But if Viserys had just been smart and made Viserys the heir, it would have fixed all the problems. Like, it's just the situation Viserys put himself in with having another wife, having all these children. It was not the time to try and make a female the person in charge, because it was going to lead to this conflict, right? You had no way of, like, he could have done a better way of trying to secure it for Rhaenyra, but the simplest way to fix this problem was to either, one, make Aegon the heir, two, didn't matter the ages, right? Just wait till Aegon becomes, or basically put it this way, Aegon, when you come of age, you're going to marry Rhaenyra. It doesn't matter the ages. That also could have fixed the problem, right? But yeah. He already appointed Rhaenyra and raised her for rule before he even married Alicent. She was a logical choice. At the time, she was a logical choice. But as soon as you introduce a male heir, and this is something Viserys should have realized before he got a second marriage, is that him having more heirs is going to create issues for Rhaenyra. So, I agree, Hugo, on that. Yes, okay, that's a good point Glossy brings up. That is a very good point. In the show, he did not raise her to rule. In the book, he did. In the book, it's very much established that Rhaenyra was at all the council meetings for this reason, for her to rule, for her to become the queen. That is not really present in the show. Like, yes, she's at meetings at the small council, but she's, giving them wine or something like that. Or if she talks, they send her away to pick out a Kingsguard. Like, they really weren't letting her do that. I would have just stated that if I was Corlys, I would have named Baela as the heir because she was older than Luke. That's very okay. That's a good reason. They could have done that as well, because if Rhaenyra is going to be kind of the same type thing where a woman's coming, he could have done something like that again as well. So that makes sense. All right. So now we move to nighttime, right? And I thought we got a really good scene of Otto sends Aegon to bed. He's just getting drunk off his ass, and he gets sent to bed. Now, this is going to be a reoccurring point I want to bring up. Is Aegon really the most irresponsible? Because out of all the kids, all right, Aegon and Helena are the only ones that aren't wandering about the castle at night when they shouldn't be, and the grounds or whatever, which how they even get out of the castle is, I don't know. But yeah, so, Aegon, is he really the irresponsible one here? Also, we get a flyover of Vhagar, which is a really good shot, and also it foreshadowed what was to come with Aemond as well, because Aemond's kind of the one that sees Vhagar, so good foreshadowing there. And then we get kind of the big scene for me. This is one of my favorite scenes, is that Rhaenys and Corlys kind of talking about it. We talked about it so much already in this episode, so I'm not going to bring a ton onto this. But I really love the way Rhaenys kind of understands her husband and is able to kind of say, okay, Corlys, you don't really care that I didn't become queen. It's because your bloodline's not on the throne, right? So you're chasing these things. I don't care about the throne anymore, right? So I think that is really interesting. So yeah, I just put this is one of the better dialogue scenes in the show. And it really talks on George R. R. Martin's a big idea of legacy, which we've talked about in this episode or this stream. And yeah, so this is just one of my favorite scenes of the entire series. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit since we've talked about it so much, a lot of the ideas of Corlys and Rhaenys already in this episode, or what I keep saying episode, but yeah, this stream. So yeah. In the show, Rhaenyra is the heir, but at the same time, she is serving drinks during the council meeting. The show was just trying too hard to expose sexism. I kind of agree a little bit with that. It was trying to lean in heavily on the whole idea that women roles in society are much different in Westeros than kind of now, right? Where if you had said that this is a male heir, right? So if let's say Aegon and Rhaenyra switched places, Aegon was the one inheriting the throne, would he be serving as a cupbearer? I don't think so, right? He would probably have more of a prevalent role, But I don't know. That is true, Glossy. That is true about Rhaenyra. Yes, Rhaenyra was a cupbearer in the books as well. Yes. I meant more when I was saying that, I meant more as in Rhaenyra had more of an active role in trying to become queen, right? Where Viserys was kind of grooming her to be the next queen and doing all these things. And in the show, it just doesn't really come off that way, right? It doesn't really feel that way, I guess. Agreed, Glossy. I think that is something that I wish they did explore a little bit more. They kind of undermine that though in the show because when Viserys was arranging the marriage, he said Rhaenyra's firstborn, heir regardless of sex, would inherit the. Yeah, but the thing is though, Matthew, he's still going to be regarded as part Velaryon, right? And even if you look at his brothers, his siblings, they're all going to be the Velaryon last name, right? So I think it still makes sense for Corlys' point of view. And also, here's the other thing. If Viserys was to die, Who's going to enforce that? It wasn't made public. That knowledge was not made public. So Corlys could very easily try to say, yeah, there's still going to be Velaryons. And also Rhaenyra was not was not present at this kind of meeting or whatever. If we look at all the people that were there, Corlys could just as easily said, yeah, they're Velaryons. Like, it wasn't really made public, so I think he could go against that, actually. Agreed, Hugo. That's true, Amir. Because the Targaryens kind of look of themselves as, like, almost gods, almost. You know, like they're a higher race, basically. A male at that age would be a page or a squire. Agreed. And that's normally how it would go. But I think if you're the only heir or whatever, I think you would be given, like, more of a role. Like, you would be sitting on council meetings and stuff like that, not just being, like, a cupbearer. It's kind of how I'm trying to say on that. So moving on, we have the nighttime scene with Daemon and Rhaenyra. And I like that Rhaenyra looks on her relationship with Laenor and says, you know, they tried. It wasn't like something where it was just like they both didn't try to do their duty. They just both were like, yeah, no, this isn't going to work. And they just stopped. Like, I like that they talk about how Rhaenyra and Laenor did try. Like, they did try to do their duty, but it just wasn't Laenor. Like, Laenor couldn't do it. Right? So, yeah. And then hold on, what else do we have here? They also have a really interesting line where Rhaenyra is still kind of underestimating Alicent, where Daemon kind of implies that, you know, it would make a lot of sense for Alicent to kill the Strongs. And Rhaenyra's like, I don't think so. It just doesn't fit Alicent. I don't know if she's kind of able to do murder. And where she is kind of right, because Alicent didn't really say to kill them, she is complicit in their deaths. So it is interesting how that was talked about. I also love something that they reference back to the last idea, or not the last idea, the last, what was I trying to say? Or to one of the earlier episodes with the brothel and Rhaenyra and Daemon. I like that they mention it, right? That they talk about what kind of happened there. And again, this is my problem. So inside the episode for that episode, it was that Daemon couldn't get it up. But in this episode, he specifically says he spared her. Like, you know, he didn't, you know, have sex with a kid, basically. So it kind of like contradicts the whole idea that he couldn't get it up, and that's why he didn't sleep with her. So again, that's why I don't watch the inside the episodes, because sometimes the things they say don't come off on screen that well. Because that is an obvious, like, oh, okay. Or maybe he's lying. He could be lying and just he's embarrassed about not being able to get it up. But even if you look at this episode, he's obviously attracted to her and he sleeps with her, has no problems. So I think it was more that Daemon in that episode sees how this is kind of messed up, and also that she's still young, and he was just trying to basically not seed, but he was basically trying to get Viserys to marry the two. I think that this episode kind of undoes a lot of things that they had said about Daemon in previous Inside the Episodes. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Now the next idea I thought was very weird. They start like making out, and then they sleep together on the beach. Like, why? Like, you do realize anybody can see you doing that. It just seems like a very odd decision, especially when Rhaenyra is in a very sticky situation already. Okay, you know, that was kind of a double meaning, but you know what? She was like, it just felt like a really odd thing to happen. Like, and then it was just like, okay, they start kissing, whatever. Fade out from the scene. We get it. We get what's about to happen. We don't need to see all that. And then they like spend like a good 2 minutes, like, and it's just like, hey, we know what's happening. We have so much to get through. We don't need this right now. We don't need this. But yeah, so that happens. All right, let me look at chat for a second. It was unnecessary to phrase it as an exception that Rhaenyra's children would have the surname Targaryen. This always happens when the husband is from an inferior line. He loses his surname. Agreed, Hugo. Do you think it was Rhaenyra, Daemon, or Quarrel's idea to fake Laenar's death? Or Carl, sorry. I personally think it was probably Rhaenyra's, because why would you have this scene where Laenor basically, and again, I have problems with this. We're going to talk about that at the end, but I'm just going to answer your question now. We'll talk about more of it later. But I think with Laenor showing all these things and how he wants to be a better person to Rhaenyra, it doesn't seem, and again, we have not seen Rhaenyra like killing any characters, not doing anything inherently evil. I think it makes the most sense that it was Rhaenyra's idea, right? So I think it was Rhaenyra's idea. It definitely wasn't Daemon's idea. Daemon has no problem with killing people, so I don't think it was Daemon's idea. It had to either be Quarrel's or Rhaenyra's. Kind of make Daemon look like a groomer. Agreed. Well, I think he was a groomer, but yeah. He also had no sexual problems with Laena. Agreed. It's tradition in God for people to have sex in public or in very accessible places. No brothels seem to have locked doors. Yeah. It just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, you're literally right below the castle. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this is like very easily, if somebody sees you, you guys are fucked. Like, y'all are fucked. One, you're not married, so that's a big no-no in Westerosi society. One, you're still married to Laenor. Like, you are really pushing your luck, Rhaenyra, with that one, but yes, that's what I thought, Matthew. The way they panned it up to Aemond, like, going for, Vhagar and all that, I really thought they were going to have, oh, Aemond's seeing him getting it on, huh? That's what I thought was going to happen, but it did not happen, so, All right. So the sex scene happens, and we kind of go out to Aemond, and this is what I don't know what's going on. Like, Aemond is allowed out of the castle in the dead of night, but then Aegon is put to bed. Like, it's just nobody watching Aemond? I don't understand. Like, it's very clear, right, in, Game of Thrones, other things, that there are always guards outside of bedrooms and stuff like this. Where there's just nobody around? Like, I don't understand how he got out. And they don't show us how he got out of the castle either. He's just there. So I'm just like, okay, all right. I thought that was a little weird, but yeah. We're gonna kind of go through this one real quick. I really like that Aemond wasn't someone that just walked into Vhagar and he was just in control now. Like, he had to like prove himself a little bit to Vhagar, and even when he's flying Vhagar, this is, I think, the best scene we've seen with someone riding a dragon, where you see like how impractical it could be at times, where like, he's hitting birds while he's up there, he's struggling to stay on. I thought that was really good, and I liked this scene particularly. I think it was a really good idea. But yeah, so this all happens. Aemond, tames Vhagar, comes down, and then basically Jace is told that someone stole Vhagar, right? And that being Aemond. And all the kids get together, the band gets back together, okay, basically. And they get down here, and Aemond loses his sympathy real quick. He just starts being like an arrogant kind of kid, which makes sense, like he's been a kid that has been bullied, the pig thing in the past. He's someone that is kind of been overlooked. He doesn't have a dragon. Now he has the biggest dragon. He has the baddest dragon. He has Vhagar. Okay. And Aemond, he definitely goes into it, right? He leans into that, and he's just basically calling them out for being bastards. Let me answer a question real quick. Young Wolf, is there a bracket stream this week? I'm not sure. If I don't end up watching Game of Thrones, season 8, gotta get through it with my friends who have never watched the show, and we're almost the end. We might do it Wednesday. If I don't do it Wednesday, then yes, I'll probably do a community update if there will be a stream on either tomorrow or Wednesday if I do end up doing one, but I'm not sure yet. But yes. And then I thought this was really interesting, right? And the kids start fighting, and I'm like, wow, this is like they're beating the shit out of Eamon at the start of this fight, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, it makes sense because it's like they've been trained to fight each other. They have been trained to literally wear different colors to literally fight each other, like we saw with Kristen Cole. His training methods in the last. He's a dickhead, but in the last episode or whatnot. And eventually, Eamon kind of he gets out of it, and he just he starts using his bigger. He's a bigger kid than the other ones, and he just starts he starts winning basically. He starts winning. And Eamon's like, I'm gonna kill you guys. I'm like, wow, this escalated very quickly. But it makes sense, right? In the context of what's happening, right? It makes sense. And then Luke then proceeds to cut Eamon's eye. So I thought this was a really good scene. I think they built up the scene really well. They also kind of even play into Jace's grief, where this is someone where he has a lot of pent up anger and sadness, and he finally just kind of lets it out. When Eamon kind of crosses that line of talking about his dad and things like that. So I thought this was a very good scene, and it felt really earned, which is something a lot of action set pieces or big moments in shows do not do nowadays. But yeah. So let's look at what's chat got to say. Everyone in the books, even in the books, I couldn't really see Daemon killing Elena'S because they fought together in the Stepstones. That is true. I could see that as well. But I think Daemon is someone that sees his own personal gain more than things like that. So I could see Daemon doing it, but I don't think he did. There's a theory that Daemon and Elena'S actually hooked up in the Stepstones. Possible. I could see it. Daemon got real close to Carl, thought they were going to do a kiss, or they were doing to kiss for a second. Yeah. Could definitely see that. They were getting real close. They were getting a little too close. Yes, leg straps are very important, Lady Gonzo. It would have been worse than the tower situation. IDK what Daemon would have done to Eamon. Oh, that kid would have not. He would have not been living. Saw a funny tweet about how the kids could have gotten their asses killed because what if the person stealing Vhagar was an adult? They would have been. Dude, that's so funny. Could you imagine? Like, it's just some random dude, and he's just like, "Yeah, I stole Vhagar. What you gonna do about it?" And they try to attack him, just like that. Bam! All of Rhaenyra's kids are dead, except Joffrey, because Joffrey was not seen in this episode, which I thought was interesting as well. Eamon has the fattest dragon. Hey man, Vhagar's got a thick dumpy. Okay. There you go. Loved watching Eamon get jumped. Yep. Quotes a bracket. Fat pink mask. Yes, that'd be a good one. I loved that punch that Bela got in. Damon must be proud. Yes, very proud. 5,000 gold dragons for the head of Billy Bob. Billy Bob's not here, so you know what? Kill him. Off that man. Kill him. All right, let me get a drink of water, and we'll move into the big scene, the big boy. Also, we have another stream brought to you by Aquafina, and we're not actually sponsored by Aquafina, but they have great water. If you're ever feeling thirsty and you need some water, this is the water you buy because it is the high quality and best water on the planet. The goal of this, I just want to let you guys know, the goal of this channel is to one day be sponsored by Aquafina. Like, I will do it for free. I will literally just be like, hey, give me like what commercial do you guys want me to run for you? I'll do it. Free. Also, since we're taking a little bit of an update right now, the 49ers are going to be beating the Rams 14-6, and I can say I love to see it. Also, yes, use code GREASE. If you go to check out at your grocery store and you get Aquafina, just tell them type in the code GREASE and they'll give you a $5 discount. I really wish we would have seen Dare on this episode. He is my favorite of the kids of Alicent and Viserys. But we haven't, so, whatever. Now, Christian Cole, this is the problem. This is the problem. He just straight up starts back talking the king. The king is like asking, like, how did these kids get out of the castle? Were there not guards? What are you guys doing? You're supposed to be protecting my children. And this is what I'm thinking too. I'm like, dude, if I was Viserys, I'd be asking the same question. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, what is going on? Like, how are these kids all out of it? Like, but yeah. So I thought it was good, but then Kristen Cole just starts back talking the king, and I'm like, dude, what is going on? Like, dude, really? Like, man, I hate Kristen Cole. I hate this man. Like, everybody's like, oh, I hate Alicent, or I hate this character, I hate Otto. I'm like, dude. Just kill Kristen Cole. IDK, if you watch Atlanta, but the main character was locked in a room for like a week, and he finally lost it when he asked for water, and they only had Dasani? Oh, God, I'd rather die. Oh. Also, Ashley, I saw that message before you retracted it, and I will agree, dude. Jimmy Garoppolo, as a man, okay. Jimmy Garoppolo is a good-looking man, okay. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. I've been looking forward to seeing Tessarion, but who knows? Agreed, Lady Gonzo, agreed. I just don't understand though, Lady Gonzo. Why would they have like the 4th blood trail, right, for Alicent having a 4th child if he's not even in it? So maybe he's gonna be a 2nd season type character. I don't know. Jimmy Garoppolo is even more beautiful than Rhaegar. It is known. It is known. But yeah, all right. So let's move on. And basically, we have, everybody's meeting up. And they're in this little room, and Eamon, he's basically lost an eye. He's gonna have the scar his whole life and stuff like that. He's lost the eye. Right? And what I thought was really funny is Alicent goes up to Aegon and is like, dude, what the fuck? Why weren't you there with your brother in the child war? Okay, you're the oldest. Like, you could have taken all of them at the same time. Like, where the fuck were you? You were getting drunk and stuff. Like, dude, Aegon was the most responsible in this situation. Aegon's not in the fight. He's happily in bed sleeping, having a nice dream about getting some more alcohol and, perving on some more women. Okay? He's fine right now. Why are you yelling at him? Why don't you yell at Aemond? Aemond got beat up by some little kids. Aemond was bigger than them. He should have won. She should be getting mad at Aemond, not Aegon. Poor Aegon did nothing. This is why Aegon doesn't want to be king right here. He doesn't want this kind of just weight on his shoulders, okay? And I just thought that was a funny scene. But yeah. And this scene where we have, the kids and all this stuff going on, and it reminds me so much of Sansa, Arya, and Joffrey in season 1, where they're having the whole idea of who attacked who and this and this. It was really a great callback while also being like its own original thing. I thought it just really reminded me of that moment in Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire, and I thought that was really good. They did it really well. All the kids are blurting out stuff. You can't understand what's happening. All this shit. And I liked it. I thought it was really good. They've done a really good job of the kids being how kids would be, right? But something that I thought was very interesting or weird was that in this whole conversation or this whole argument, Rhaenyra is the one that's playing this way more politically correct. Rhaenyra is kind of the one like their kids, not getting very emotional and all this stuff, and she's basically like, yeah, where did Aemond learn that they were bastards or something like that? Rhaenyra is definitely like out of the two right now being the more politically sly one, which is weird because they haven't played that at all, really. They've shown Rhaenyra as, okay, she can lie when she needs to, but they never show Rhaenyra really as like the political player, and they really put it on here because Alicent is like, it feels like the roles are almost flip-flopped. Alicent reacts way more how I would feel Rhaenyra would act, and Rhaenyra acts like how I think Alicent would act, where Alicent would kind of be like very relaxed and kind of playing her cards and, you know, kind of manipulating Viserys. And Rhaenyra would be the one like, your son attacked mine, you know, I want justice done, and like actually getting violent. That's more the fiery Targaryen type way. So I thought that was a little interesting that they reversed kind of the roles and the preconceptions for both characters. Let me continue. We'll get through this and I'll read chat. All right, so they say basically, so here's another thing. Alicent kind of calls out and insults Laenor in front of Corlys and in Driftmark. This should have been something where Corlys is just like, yeah, Alicent, you may be queen, but you're in Driftmark. Don't be talking shit on not only my son, but also his grandchildren. I thought that was a little weird that Corlys wasn't a little bit more involved in this talk, especially because he's the lord of the castle that they're at. I thought that was interesting. He wasn't really involved in this kind of confrontation, really. So basically then Aemon says, hey, Aegon's the one that told me about the bastards, and then it's kind of like, okay, well, who told Aegon? And, you know, Rhaenyra is kind of eyeing up Alicent and all this stuff, and she's playing her card perfectly. Rhaenyra is playing this perfectly, leading Viserys to the, you know, correct outcome and all this stuff, and Viserys kind of just has this outburst where he's just like, stop. We guys all got to get together. We're a family. You know, it's just like, comes off as very childish. And it comes off as just like, dude, Viserys, do you not see what's going on here? Like, do you really not understand, like, what has to happen here for you to fix the situation? Dude, Aemon's eye is out because of how much these two sides hate each other. Like, Viserys, come on, my guy. I know you're, like, looking rough. Your mentals aren't looking so hot. But come on, man. We gotta do more than this. Like, he's doing basically the good old Bobby B, like, dude, they're kids, they fight, whatever, fine. You know? It's like, come on, man. We gotta see what's going on here. But yeah. And then Alicent's just like, yeah, no, fuck you, Viserys. I demand an eye for an eye. Kristen, go get that eye for me. And I'm just like, Viserys, Alicent just threatened your heir. Like, are we not going to do nothing about this? Like, I'm glad at least that Kristen didn't move to try something, because, like, if he would have done that, I really at this point would have not understood how Kristen Cole was still a Kingsguard, but he doesn't. And Alicent basically goes, hey, he's my sworn sword. It's like, it doesn't matter. He's a Kingsguard. He follows the king. No one has more power than the king, or they're supposed to anyway. You know, good old Tywin line, you know, just throw that in there. But what's going on? You know? And Alicent just acts very, like, stupid and not politically correct in this, which is really weird because we've never seen this from her character, really. She's very composed. She's very knowing what to say, knows how to play her cards. And that it is interesting that Alicent finally breaks here. You know, an attack on her child was enough to break that facade, right? It's almost another like Cersei thing where it's like Cersei tries to be very politically correct and all these things, but when it comes to her children, that's when it breaks her. I thought that was really interesting that Rhaenyra kind of beats her at her own game. That, like Amir says in the chat. So that was really interesting. I like the way they did that. They have one of the best shots of the episode where we kind of see the splitting of the lines. We see who's on each side, and there's a good shot where it's like Rhaenyra with the Velaryons and Daemon. And I also think it's interesting that Daemon is kind of taking a backseat role to all of this, where maybe fatherhood has kind of tempered him down a little for a little while, and then kind of his marriage to Rhaenyra at the end is what's going to awaken his craziness again. But yeah, it's interesting that how that all kind of plays out. So let me read chat again. We only have a little bit more of the episode to kind of discuss, but this was definitely a very good episode. Like, as I'm talking about this and kind of reflecting back on it, it was a very good episode. It just had moments in here, like here and there, that I just really didn't like, and I was not a fan at the end. But yes, no, Aegon was definitely jacking off in his room. Let's be honest. Maybe Lady Gonzo, maybe. That's It's a really disturbing thing to think about with Alicent to get knocked up by Gollum, basically. Yeah, that's a yikes. I don't think he does have those capabilities anymore, though. I will agree with Glossy on that, though. I don't think he does. Jace and Luke have a way better brotherhood compared to Aegon and Aemon. Yeah, agreed. Because they're just polar opposites. Aemon is serious about everything. Aegon is not serious about anything except for women and drinking, and just wants to live his life. Like, he don't want to have to do these rules. Aemon's all about the rules. You know, like, they're just like polar opposites. And then Jace and Luke are just, yeah, they're just much more brothers, really. Yep, Viserys basically had his "stop this madness in the name of your king." That's basically what he said. That side of the family just feels a lot more loving. Agreed. I hated how Daemon ignored his daughters the whole time. Then when it was over, went to Lucerys and Rhaenyra and continued to ignoring them. I hate how cold. Yeah, I really don't like that. I really don't like that Daemon isn't really a father to his children at all. It really just bothers me. And it's the continued idea that they've gone the entire villain route with Daemon. They really haven't made him morally gray. He's a villain. Like, I don't know. Maybe he has redeeming qualities here and there, but he is a villain. For me, anyway, he's a villain. And that's the way that they've interpreted Fire and Blood. It's very different than my own, and that's okay. Rhaenyra got auto-fired while committing treason. I think she's shown herself to be a bit of a political player. Okay, she has, but not to that the extent I'm kind of talking about. Where this is a very public, like, political player type thing. The Rhaenyra thing, getting auto-fired while committing treason, was more of her manipulating her dad. This is Rhaenyra playing the game in front of people and actively sparring with Alicent. We haven't really seen that in the public eye very much from Rhaenyra. Well, Alicent's younger child did lose an eye. I know I'd be losing my shit if that happened to my kid. That's agreed. That's fair. But you also have to think, like, Rhaenyra's kind of in the same boat. Like, yes, they didn't lose an eye, but both of her children's lives were threatened. Both of them have, been beaten the shit out of. Like, they're coming back with bruises and shit. Like, Rhaenyra would be feeling the exact same way, like, with being very defensive and things like of to that nature. We should have gotten more out of the Larians, including Laena's children, or kids, about Vhagar. Okay, something I mentioned that I forgot to mention. They really don't talk about how significant it is that Vhagar is now Aemon's. Like, I know Otto talks about it, but that's it. It seems like everybody else kind of forgets. Like, this is a massive thing for the green side of things. They got the largest dragon, the biggest dragon, and really no one's talking about it. So I thought that was interesting. I hope they talk about that a bit more in the next episode. But that's something that was really disappointing for me as well, that wasn't put, more impact and importance wasn't put on that actual idea. Also, another thing that was interesting. What do you guys think about Vhagar's actual... Did Aemon have the right to take Vhagar? Because Baela kind of, well, basically both the daughters, basically, of Daemon, think that was, it should have been kept in their family, that he had no right to do that. Was Aemon, did he have some idea that, or was he right in the idea that, well, Laena was dead. There was a dragon there and I took her. Or I took it. I see both their sides. I think it's very... I don't think Aemon should have done it directly after the last rider dies and stuff like that. But I think it was fair game. Like, it is fair game. It's a dragon. A dragon does not pass down from child to child. That's not how it works. So I think, for me, I think Aemon was kind of had a fine reasoning for trying to take the dragon. I just think he should have waited a little bit longer. If it would have been possible. We don't know. Maybe, or Matthew, if Alicent hadn't filled her kids' heads with hate and lies, that wouldn't have happened. She has only herself to blame. Yeah, agreed. And not only that, Ashley, Kristen Cole also is taking an active role in putting the two sides together. So it's really a lot of back and forth and all that. Also, I hope my super chat thing popped up for that, but I don't know. But thank you, Taj, I hope I'm saying your name right, Stallworth, for the super chat. If you could claim any dragon in the series, alive or dead, who are you going for? Oh, the easy answer is Balerion. But I'm not going to go for Balerion. I might go for Sunfire just because that dragon it's described as being very beautiful and one of the best, or like not the best, but the most beautiful dragon of all time. So I think I might go that route. I think I might go that route. Dude, that's a tough question. That is a very tough question. Who would you go for? But for me, I think it would be Sunfire. I think that's who I would go for. Because it's described as the most beautiful dragon. I think that'd be really cool, while also being a very like fearsome dragon in their own right. So I think I'd go for Sunfire. I think Sunfire, Fire, or Balerion would be my two. If you want my easy answer, I would say Balerion, but the more creative answer, I go for Sunfire. Me and Glossy are of one on that one. I don't know. The Red Worm, though, Damon's Dragon would also be a good option, too. I think that would be my third option. There's a lot of cool dragons. That's a tough question, but yeah, that is my answer. But thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Hold on, I'm trying to read comments real quick. Agree. So that was another interesting scene that Amira kind of brings up, is when Alicent actually does draw the knife and she goes to attack the queen. Nobody kind of gets in the way, which was a little odd. I guess no one really had the balls to try and stop the queen, because the queen obviously has more power than Viserys at this point, because Viserys is just not acting at all. I think it is interesting that no one kind of steps in before she gets to Rhaenyra. But yeah, but it is really interesting to see Rhaenyra beat Alicent at her game. Harold Westing was a side-eyeing Kristen as soon as Alicent made the request. I think had Kristen moved towards Luke, he would have stopped in. Oh no, he definitely would have. He definitely would have, Ashley. He could have had Varamithor or Silverring at any time, but he wanted the biggest one, Tiny D energy. fair enough. Sheep Stealer, that's a very interesting one, Ashley. Why Sheep Stealer? I'm very interested on why you chose that one. Sunfire, yeah, love to see that. I think Sunfire is the coolest one. I think Sunfire is the coolest one to imagine and look at. I'm very excited to see when we see Sunfire later on. Melees, that's a good one. I will. LOL. Thank you, Ashley. Do my best. Yeah, you guys have your little lovey relationship in the chat, Matthew and Ashley. Dreamfire, that's another good one. Caraxes or Varamithor, yeah. I think Caraxes would be up there for me. But Varamithor would have been a good one as well. Cannibal, that would be hardcore. Yeah, you like Cannibal? I could see that. Amir. I could see that. Okay, so Alicent and Otto have this kind of dialogue scene where Otto's kind of like, you're really, I've never seen the side of you, Alicent. You really know how to win. And I was just kind of like, it's a good scene between the two. And, it also builds on the increasing conflict and the tension that the Greens are now, they want war. Like, there's no peace anymore. Like, they want war. That's straight up what they want. Otto becomes way more of a villain in this episode, and this scene specifically. And yeah, I think it's just a good tension builder and a good one-on-one scene with Alicent and Otto. We haven't gotten one for a while, so it was good to see. And this scene, I think, so this is scene 8 that I have down, was a very good scene, but gets ruined, in my opinion, by the end. So Laenor and Rhaenyra have a dialogue, and they're kind of talking about their relationship. It's very similar to Cersei and Robert, where it's like, it started out kind of right or whatever, and they just failed. They failed each other. They weren't good in their marriage, especially because Laenor didn't like women. And Laenor, tries to have this redemptive arc where he's like, Rhaenyra, I'm going to be a better husband. I'm going to do all the things I can be to be a better man, to be a good, husband to you. And it's a really good scene for Laenor. And I'm like, wow. Just knowing where Laenor's character was going, I was like, wow, they are really going to drop that right before they kill him. And the way things happen, okay, where Rhaenyra and Daemon need Laenor out of the way. It's true. Because she wants to marry him and all that stuff. And I think she wants more of a person that can protect her and actually be an ally to her because of the Greens' increasing power and inevitability of war. I was like, okay, it made sense for them to kill Laenor, and I was okay with accepting that that's the route they went. It makes sense because they didn't have a lot of time to establish Carl or whatever. It made sense to have this be their interpretation from the book series, especially when you're trying to rush to get to certain plot points. It made sense that this is the route they were going to go. But then, all of a sudden, we get to the end of the episode, and I'm like, oh, okay, Laenor's going to die. It's going to be heartbreaking for Rhaenys and Corlys. And Laenor is alive. And I'm like, what? Not only, okay, from Laenor's point of view, did this go against his entire speech? Can you think about this from Laenor's perspective, right? So Laenor is just like, I want to be a better man. I want to do these things. And basically, I'm assuming Rhaenyra basically makes the plan and tells him more or less that, yeah, that's great and all, but here's what I actually want to happen. We're going to fake your death, and you're just going to go fuck off somewhere, and you're going to go be a warrior or whatever. Laenor is not only basically putting more heartbreak onto his mother and father over his death. He's abandoning all of his responsibilities. He's doing exactly the opposite of the speech he just gave to Rhaenyra. Where I'm just like, why give him this option? Why not just kill him? Like, I don't like it for Rhaenyra's character because I don't think it's something she would do. But just have Daemon do it. Daemon's a villain already. Doesn't matter. Just have it to where it's like maybe Rhaenyra implies it'd be better for him to leave or something like that. And Daemon ends up just killing him. And not telling Rhaenyra, and then Rhaenyra finds out, then they marry, whatever. Have it be like that. But now you keep him alive, and I'm like, okay, well, how is the Sea Smoke plot going to go? Because now they've opened themselves up to questions of, is Sea Smoke going to come after Laenor? Is Sea Smoke going to take it as Laenor actually is dead? Is there some psychological connection between the two, which it would seem that there is, just based upon how when Daemon takes injuries, it seems like his dragon takes injuries. So it's going to be interesting. And then we also don't have any preconception of, can a dragon have multiple riders? So how is that going to work? Right? So they've opened themselves up to a lot of questions when I feel like it would have been so much easier and would have been a little bit more of a gut punch if Rhaenyra and Daemon were the ones to actually kill Laenor. I feel like it's a bit more of a gut punch, and this is the big one. I think it would have added more moral balance to the two sides. Because if Rhaenyra actively is basically implying to Daemon that she wants him to kill him, Rhaenyra now is actively involved in killing her husband, who is trying to be a better guy. It wasn't like he was a villain or anyone, just because she needed him out of the way. It now would be very comparable with Rhaenyra and Alicent on both of their sides. They both kill people that really were not doing them any harm or anything like that. It would have made a bit more sense, I feel like, for me, if that was the way they went with it. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. So then we have Rhaenyra's wedding to Daemon. It was pretty weird. Like, you could tell her, like, children are just like, what the fuck? Our mom just died, like, yesterday. Like, and then if you even look at, like, technically the Velaryon kids or Rhaenyra's kids, our quote-unquote dad just died, like, literally hours before this happened. So I'm just like, I don't know where they're going with this. I really don't. I don't know. To me, it was just another questionable ending that I'm just getting used to it now, where I'm just like, great start, great episode, really like what they're doing. And then the end, I'm just like, why? Yes, Matthew, it is. Why did we go this route? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't understand that. But yeah. I agree with Ashley on that. If we would have gotten to see more of a relationship between Harold and Rhaenyra, that would have been really, really cool. Yeah, I just don't understand why they would have that scene of Laenor saying how he wants to be a better father, just to have him abandon the. Yeah, agreed. I don't understand why that scene's there. I don't like. It just contradicts how like that whole idea. And then yeah, Laenor, the impact of sea smoke getting claimed. Yeah, that's a big thing. I don't know how they're going to handle it. I can understand it more if Laenor found out about Daemon and Rhaenyra and took the chance to dip, knowing Daemon might come after. Yeah, that makes much more sense. Like, I just feel like there were so many more logical ways of maybe if they wanted Laenor to leave the story or leave Rhaenyra than that, right? I don't know. I could see this, that Harold Westing being the best glory command in the whole Targaryen dynasty. I could see it. So I mean, somewhere today, basically Laenor coming back with a fake mustache, just Adam. Possible. That's a good point about his dragon though, since they have like a telepathic connection. I definitely think Laenor will be back. That's my whole thing. Is people keep saying that, oh, Laenor got a good ending. I'm like, I don't think this is his ending. Maybe for now it is, but I think at some point he will re-enter the story, and I don't think it's going to go well for him. Based off Cyrax's reaction when Joff tries to ride her later on, I don't think a dragon. Yeah, that's what I thought, but it's now a question they have to answer in the show now because they've opened themselves up to that possibility. I agree. I agree, Glossy. I agree with you on that. I thought Laenor came up with the idea personally. That could be true, Ashley. I mean, maybe that's true. Maybe Laenor and Rhaenyra had this conversation, but it was just off screen for some reason. And Laenor was like, "Hey, I need to leave." But I just don't think so, Ashley, because Laenor is not that kind of person where he would have came up with some elaborate plan to deceive everyone that he's dead. I just think that was something Rhaenyra or Daemon probably thought up. I think more Rhaenyra, but I don't know, like, he just talks about being a great father and these things and trying to be a better person, and then all of a sudden he's gone. But I just don't know. I don't know. I think they definitely whiffed on the Laenor plot, in my opinion. I don't know. But that is the entire episode. Yeah. I don't know. Let me do my little summary, because I made a little summary here at the bottom. I probably just fucked up my overlay. Hold on. Actually, a little. I fucked it up a little. It's not too bad, especially since we're at the end of the stream anyway. But hold on. This was my summary of the episode. I wrote about a paragraph. So here's what I'll say. This episode for me falls into the same good and bad that the entire show has faced. A really great start with lots of great scenes and characterizations, but the plot moves too fast and things happen too quickly to get to the actual dance. It really reminds me of the later seasons of GOT, which again continues to scare me. Also, I want to add to that point, outside of the thing I wrote down. I'm not saying as in like dialogue or things like that, but just the way that there are things missing. It feels like there are scenes missing. Characters jump to conclusions very quickly. Things happen very quickly, which is very similar to the later Game of Thrones seasons. I'm not saying like as in quality of like dialogue and things to that nature. With that being said, there was a lot of positive in this episode. The tension and build-up was fantastic for the later episodes. The Aemond One-Eye plot was handled very well. I just think everything I dislike with this show has focused around the Daemon plot and the use of just him straight up being a villain. You could really see also that the time skips hurt this episode. Of a decent amount of something that unfortunately we will see one more time, because there will be one more time skip to age up the kids and all those things. So we're gonna see one more time skip. Hopefully it doesn't impact the next episode too badly, but it's definitely had an effect on the earlier part of the season. I think this really could have been benefited from having a longer season because of them skipping things early on. It has led to some questions about certain ideas presented in the show. Like Kristen Cole, we still have no resolution as to how he wasn't imprisoned or anything for his actions in Rhaenyra's wedding. And again, I would probably stick towards giving this episode a 8, around the middle in the 8. And there was definitely some good stuff in here, and even included one of my favorite scenes with Rhaenys and Corlys, but the last 15 minutes really weighed the episode down for me. So that was my overall conclusion of the said episode. I think he stepped out in order to protect them and might be back behind the scenes at some point. That is fair. But I don't know, like maybe Amir, like he was suggested into it or something like that, because I just don't like. I don't think he would have came up with that by himself. Maybe though, maybe that's true, Ashley or Amir. I hope we get some answers for it. Maybe like Rhaenyra mentions in the next episode, she's like, "Yeah, that was a good plan by Laenor, and you know all these things." And maybe some reference to who actually made the plan, or who was the person that was kind of behind what ended up happening. Laenor being alive would make any children Rhaenyra and Daemon have bastards, so I feel like he will have to die at some point. I agree. Like, I think he has to die at some point, because if you look at what happens at the end of this time period and how House Velaryon works as a whole, he has to die. You're going to take a look at the next episode teaser. Let me do it real quick. Let me make sure I have the audio muted, because the last time I did something like with a trailer with audio in it, HBO claimed that stuff real quick. Okay. Let me put it on my headphone audio. Okay, let's look up the season, or not, episode 8, House of the Dragon trailer. All right. On. Kind of a quick one. It's only a minute long. Okay, Otto is on the throne, probably because Viserys is ill or something like that. Okay, we see the good old greens. Well, let me go back. Hold on. Back. I definitely agree with you guys on one thing. The actor playing Aegon really does not look like the young actor at all. So that's kind of weird. I think the casting for Eamon is pretty good, so I like that. They're building up the Velaryon drama plot, which I think we expected, so that'll be interesting as well. Talking about how Corlys has taken a wound and could be a little ill or something like that. Also building up, you know, who is going to take up the mantle of the Driftwood throne after Corlys. We get some more good tension between the two like families' kids, basically. And that is it. They don't actually show us too much in this trailer. It was only really, like, if you actually think about it, it was like 40 seconds long. But yeah, I think they showed enough what they needed to. Oh, by the way, when I said Corlys being sick, I meant like he got wounded, basically. Where the hell is Joffrey? I don't know. I don't know where Joffrey is. $10 say we're gonna find out that Laenor ends up getting killed by Corlys assassins. What? Why would his own dad kill him? That is true, Amir, that maybe Rhaenyra should just taken 2 husbands. That would have been kind of, yeah. But that is going to be the stream. And thank you guys all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed more of the longer stream because, it's more formulated and stuff, and we go through the entire episode. We'll be back for episode 8. Well, again, don't count on it. We might be doing a stream Wednesday. I'm not sure yet. If I don't have things going on, then there will be a stream at our normal time. And then, yeah, so all of that. And then as well, Rings of Power on Friday again. If you guys want to see me have like a stroke or something, that's the place to go. I probably will be just as angry as I was last week. I can't really see it getting much better. And then also, by the way, we have 2 Maester like sus videos this week. So you guys will probably like those. You guys usually like those, but it's kind of a Maester week type thing. No problem here. Thank you for joining the stream and being a part of it as well as always. And all that stuff as well, guys. So thank you all for joining. And I will see you guys next one.